I still remember the way she looked at me that night. Her eyes didn't have the warmth they once carried, the sparkle that used to make me believe she was the only woman for me. Instead, there was hesitation, almost calculation, like she was measuring whether I was still worthy of her time. And then, out of nowhere, she dropped the bomb. She said, "I need a month to decide if you're worth my time." For a moment I froze. My heart stopped. I replayed her words in my head like a broken record. It wasn't just what she said, it was how she said it, with this cold detachment, like I was some option she was keeping open while she figured out her real life. And me? I just sat there, staring at her, all the memories of our marriage flashing before my eyes, the first time I met her, the laughter, the dreams we built together, the promises we whispered in the dark. All of it now felt like it was slipping away. I could have begged. I could have asked her what she meant. I could have cried. But instead I took a deep breath, and with every ounce of calmness I had left, I simply said, "No problem." It shocked her. I saw it in her eyes. She expected a fight, a dramatic breakdown, maybe even pleading. But my calmness rattled her. She tried to smile, but I knew right then, something was terribly wrong in my marriage. Now, before I dive deep into what happened next, let me just pause here and say, if you're still listening, don't forget to hit that like button, because what I'm about to tell you is one of those real-life cheating stories that will make you question everything about trust, love, and loyalty. And don't forget to subscribe for more shocking real-life style stories. At first, I tried to convince myself it was just stress. Maybe she was overwhelmed, maybe she needed space, maybe she didn't mean it the way it sounded. But the truth? Deep down I knew. A husband can sense when his wife is pulling away. It's in the way she avoids eye contact, the way her phone suddenly becomes her lifeline, the way excuses replace affection. That night, she slept facing the other side of the bed. No goodnight kiss, no warmth. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, my mind racing. I replayed every recent moment, the late night work calls, the sudden urge to hang out with her friends, the way she had started dressing up more carefully when going out, while barely making an effort at home. Something was off. And my gut told me the truth, my wife was hiding something. When we first met, we were in college, two young dreamers, barely figuring out life. She had this smile that could melt the hardest heart. I wasn't the most confident guy back then, but when she laughed at my silly jokes, I felt like the luckiest man alive. We built our love slowly, over late-night calls, shared meals, and promises of forever. When I proposed to her, I thought I had found my forever. Our wedding wasn't grand, but it was ours. She looked like an angel walking down the aisle, and I remember thinking, this is it. This is my life partner. We'll grow old together. But fast forward years later, and here I was, staring at the stranger lying next to me in bed. My wife. My betrayer. The next few days after her strange declaration, I watched her closely. She became more secretive with her phone. She'd walk out of the room to take calls. She started going to the gym more often, and not with me, even though we used to go together. And whenever I asked simple questions like, "Who was that on the phone?" her answers were vague, defensive. One evening, while she was showering, her phone buzzed on the nightstand. My heart pounded in my chest. I don't usually snoop. I never believed in it. But this time, my instincts screamed at me. I picked up the phone and saw a message preview. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait to see you again." My entire world collapsed in that instant. My stomach dropped, my hands went cold, and my heart, it shattered. I didn't even need to unlock the phone to know what was happening. My wife, the woman I trusted more than anyone, was having an affair. I put the phone back exactly where I found it. I didn't confront her right away. No. Instead, I decided to play it calm, to gather more, to understand how deep the betrayal went. Over the next week, I became a detective in my own home. I noticed her sneaking out with excuses like, "Girls' night out," or "working late." I checked our credit card statements, fancy dinners at places we never went together, hotel charges that made my stomach churn. The betrayal and heartbreak were overwhelming. I kept asking myself, how could she do this? After everything we've been through? After all the sacrifices? But here's the thing, betrayal doesn't just happen overnight. It builds up silently in the shadows until one day it's too big to hide. I finally confronted her one Friday night. I couldn't take the lies anymore. She came home late, smelling of perfume that wasn't hers. I sat at the kitchen table, waiting. When she walked in, I didn't yell. I didn't throw accusations. I simply asked, "Are you in love with someone else?" Her face turned pale. She dropped her purse. For a moment, I saw fear in her eyes. She tried to deflect, to act shocked, but then her defenses cracked. Tears filled her eyes, and she whispered, "I don't know." That answer cut deeper than any confession. I don't know. What does that even mean? And that's when she repeated those words. I need a month to decide if you're worth my time. She said it like she was stuck between two worlds, our marriage and her new fling. She wanted me to wait patiently while she enjoyed the best of both. I sat there in silence, staring at her. My heart was breaking, but my pride was stronger. I refused to be an option. So again, I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "No problem." But inside, my mind was already plotting. Not just revenge, but clarity. Because when a wife cheats, you face two choices, forgiveness or revenge. And sometimes, either feels right. Now, before I continue, let me ask you, what would you do if your spouse told you they needed a month to decide if you were worth it? Drop your answer in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. And don't forget, if you're still with me, hit that like button. It helps a lot. In the days that followed, I started pulling back emotionally. I stopped chasing her for answers. I stopped begging for affection. Instead, I observed. I gathered. And most importantly, I began preparing myself mentally for the worst outcome. I knew I had to be smart. This wasn't just about heartbreak, it was about survival. Because broken marriage drama doesn't just break your heart, it can destroy your entire life if you're not careful. So I started writing down everything. Dates, times, receipts. Screenshots when I could. Every clue of her betrayal. It wasn't about revenge at first, it was about protecting myself. But the more evidence I collected, the more the rage grew inside me. Rage at her lies. Rage at how she looked me in the eyes every day and pretended everything was normal. Rage at how she made me feel like I wasn't enough, when in reality it was her who was broken. And that's when I realized this wasn't just about my wife cheating. This was about me rediscovering who I was without her lies. Because if a woman can look at her husband and say, "I need a month to decide if you're worth my time," then the real question is, does she even deserve him? The first week after that conversation was brutal. Every time I looked at her, I saw the cracks in our marriage, the lies she carried behind her forced smiles. She carried on as if everything was fine, cooking dinner, chatting with me about small things, but the truth was heavy in the air. I could almost hear it in the silence between us. I didn't confront her anymore. I didn't beg. I just let her live her double life while I prepared myself in silence. And believe me, silence can be louder than any words when you're planning your next move. At night, while she scrolled through her phone in the bathroom or took late showers, I lay awake thinking, was it something I did? Was I not enough? But then I reminded myself, this wasn't about me. Cheating isn't about the betrayed spouse. It's about the selfishness of the betrayer. One day, while cleaning the living room, I noticed her gym bag lying open. A hotel receipt slipped out. My chest tightened. The hotel wasn't far from where we lived. The date? Just 2 nights ago, the night she told me she was working late. The betrayal and heartbreak hit me all over again. But instead of exploding with anger, I calmly took a photo of the receipt and put it back. Evidence. That's what I needed. Not just suspicions, not just gut feelings, solid proof. And the more proof I gathered, the more I felt my calmness transform into something else, a strange kind of strength. Now, if you're still listening, take a second to subscribe for more shocking, real lifestyle stories. And tell me in the comments, would you gather evidence like I did, or would you confront right away? By the second week, I noticed she was bolder with her lies. She'd dress up beautifully to see friends, but come home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. She laughed more at her phone than she did at my jokes. And every time I asked, "Is everything okay?" she'd snap back with irritation. "Stop acting paranoid." But I wasn't paranoid. I was awake. When we first moved into this house, we painted the walls together. I still remember her wearing my oversized shirt, her hair tied up, paint smudged across her cheek as she laughed at how clumsy I was with the brush. We made promises in that very living room, promises that this house would be our safe place, our sanctuary. But now, standing in that same living room, holding a hotel receipt from her bag, I realized the sanctuary was gone. It had become a prison of lies. The turning point came one late Friday night. She said she was out with the girls. I already knew the truth. I tracked her phone, not through apps, but by a simple call to our shared phone plan provider. And when I saw the location pinging at that same hotel, I felt my hands tremble. I drove there. My heart raced with every mile. When I pulled into the parking lot, I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. I saw her car. Right there. No denying it now. I didn't storm in. I didn't cause a scene. I just sat, watching, waiting. And then she walked out. Not alone. A man followed. He was tall, well-built, probably the gym instructor she'd been seeing. I watched as he placed his hand on her back, the kind of touch that used to belong only to me. And then she laughed, leaning into him. That laugh, it was the dagger that killed whatever innocence I had left about our marriage. I drove home before she could see me. And when she finally walked through the door later that night, pretending to be tired from hanging with the girls, I looked at her and realized I didn't love this version of her anymore. Something inside me had shifted. Now I know some of you are wondering, why didn't you explode right then? Why didn't you throw her out? The truth is, betrayal does strange things to you. At first, you want to scream, cry, break everything. But when the pain runs so deep, it settles into a cold kind of clarity. I didn't want drama. I wanted strategy. Because forgiveness versus revenge in marriage isn't just an emotional choice, it's a battle between your heart and your dignity. So I began my own secret game. I acted normal. I cooked dinner, cracked jokes, pretended to believe her excuses. But behind the scenes, I was making copies of financial records, pulling savings into separate accounts, and quietly preparing for life without her. I spoke to a lawyer discreetly, explaining everything. He told me, "Keep collecting proof. Don't confront until you're ready. Once you do, you'll have the upper hand." It was hard keeping up the charade. But the thought of her believing she was outsmarting me kept me going. One night, around the third week, I caught her whispering on the phone in the kitchen. I stayed quiet in the hallway, listening. She said, "I don't know if I can leave him yet. Give me some time. He's not suspicious." Not suspicious? I almost laughed right there. She had no idea I was 5 steps ahead. But hearing her voice, hearing the way she spoke about me like I was just a burden she had to figure out how to drop, it broke me. I felt like a ghost in my own marriage, an outsider listening to my wife plan a future without me. If you've ever experienced something like this, you know how it eats you alive. The broken marriage drama isn't just about betrayal, it's about losing your identity in the process. By the end of the month she asked for to decide if I was worth her time, I was done waiting. I planned everything for one final confrontation. The night before, I sat alone in the living room, staring at our wedding album. Photos of us smiling, holding hands, dreaming of forever. I felt tears sting my eyes. I whispered to myself, "That woman doesn't exist anymore. She died the day she chose him. The next morning, she came into the kitchen casually, as if nothing was wrong. She kissed me on the cheek, poured herself coffee, and scrolled on her phone. I stared at her, memorizing the face of the stranger I had once loved more than life itself. And then, with all the calmness in the world, I said, "Your month is up." She froze. Her coffee cup stopped midair. Her eyes darted to mine. For the first time, I saw fear, not guilt, not shame, but fear. What do you mean?" she stammered. I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I finally held the power. "I mean," I said slowly, "you had a month to decide if I was worth your time. Well, I've made my decision. And you're not worth mine." But what I said next, that's where the real story begins. Now, before I reveal the confrontation that changed everything, take a moment. If you're still with me, smash that like button. And tell me, would you walk away quietly, or would you seek revenge on a cheating spouse? Because the choice I made, it shocked even me. When I told her, "You had a month to decide if I was worth your time, and I've made my decision. You're not worth mine." The kitchen went dead silent. She just stared at me, her mouth slightly open, like she couldn't process what I just said. Her eyes darted nervously, her fingers tightened around the coffee mug, and then she laughed. It wasn't real laughter, it was that nervous, hollow kind people use when they're cornered. "What are you talking about?" she said. "You're being dramatic." I calmly pulled out the stack of evidence I had been gathering, photos of receipts, screenshots, credit card statements, even a blurry photo I had taken of her and her gym instructor outside the hotel. I laid them on the table, one by one, like cards in a game she thought she was winning. Her face strained of color. She whispered, You've been spying on me?" I shook my head. "No. I've been protecting myself." Now let me pause here and say, if you're still listening, hit that like button, because what's coming next is the kind of betrayal and heartbreak that tests every ounce of self-control a man can have. And don't forget to subscribe for more shocking, real lifestyle stories. She stood up quickly, pacing the kitchen. "It's not what it looks like," she stammered. I almost laughed. "Really? Which part isn't what it looks like? The hotel? The late nights? Or the text messages that say, 'Last night was amazing'?" Her tears came fast. Not the tears of guilt, but the tears of someone who realizes their lies have been exposed. I didn't mean to hurt you," she whispered. I felt my chest tighten. "You didn't mean to hurt me? You burned down our marriage and you say you didn't mean to hurt me?" There was no shouting match, no throwing dishes, no slamming doors. Just my calm voice against her panicked breathing. She tried to justify it. "You were distant. You worked too much. I felt alone." I shook my head. "No. Don't you dare blame me for your choices. I worked hard for us, for this home, for our future. And while I was building, you were destroying." Her shoulders slumped. For the first time, she had no words. I remembered all the nights I stayed late at the office, not because I didn't love her, but because I wanted to give her the life she deserved. I remembered the anniversary I missed because of a project deadline, and how I promised to make it up to her. I remembered sacrificing vacations, nights out, hobbies, because she always came first. And now, standing there with her lies spread across the table, I realized I had been married to an illusion. She finally said, "So what now? You're just going to leave?" I smiled faintly. "No. I'm not just leaving. I'm freeing myself." Her eyes widened. "Freeing yourself?" "Yes," I said. "Because for the past month, you made me feel like an option. But the truth is, you were the one who was replaceable all along." I told her I had already spoken to a lawyer, that I was filing for divorce, and that I had secured my finances. She wouldn't be able to drain me emotionally or financially anymore. Her reaction shocked me. She dropped to her knees, clutching my arm, crying, "Please don't do this. I made a mistake." It didn't mean anything. He doesn't love me the way you do. That was the cruel irony. She only realized my worth when she saw I was gone. But I had nothing left to give. Now, before I tell you how I walked away from that broken marriage, let me ask you, if your spouse begged for forgiveness after being caught, would you forgive, or would you walk away? Comment below. I want to hear your perspective. I told her, love isn't something you get to measure after trying other people. You don't test drive a marriage. You either choose it every day or you don't. And you didn't. Her sobs echoed through the kitchen as I walked past her, up the stairs, and into our bedroom. I grabbed a suitcase and began packing. Every shirt I folded, every photo I left behind, felt like shedding a piece of the life we once shared. I wasn't packing in anger. I was packing in freedom. In the following days, things got ugly. She begged, she threatened, she even tried to guilt-trip me with memories. We've been through so much. You can't just throw it away. But she was wrong. I wasn't throwing it away. She did. With every secret meeting, every lie, every touch she gave another man, she threw us away piece by piece. Friends and family took sides. Some said, give her another chance. Others whispered, she doesn't deserve you. But deep down, I already knew my decision. There was no going back. Forgiveness may heal wounds, but trust? Trust, once broken, is nearly impossible to rebuild. On our wedding day, when we exchanged vows, she looked at me with tears in her eyes and promised, I'll love you through everything. Through sickness and health, through good and bad. Now, years later, those words were nothing but hollow echoes. The divorce process was messy. She tried to fight for more than she deserved, but I had my evidence. My lawyer made sure she didn't get the satisfaction of taking what wasn't hers. I won't lie, there were nights I sat in my empty apartment, staring at the ceiling, feeling the crushing weight of loneliness. The bed felt too big. The silence felt unbearable. I wondered if I made the right choice. But then I remembered her laugh with him, the hotel receipts, the way she told him to give her time. And my resolve hardened. Here's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't just break your heart. It builds you. It forces you to see your worth, to realize that being alone is better than being lied to. I chose dignity over despair. I chose freedom over chains. Months later, she reached out. A text message. I miss you. Can we talk? I stared at it for a long time. And then, with a steady hand, I deleted it. No response. Because forgiveness versus revenge in marriage isn't about punishing the other person. It's about protecting yourself. And my revenge? It wasn't anger. It wasn't shouting. It wasn't even exposing her. My revenge was living well without her, showing her that she didn't break me, she only set me free. So, to the woman who once told me she needed a month to decide if I was worth her time, the answer is clear. I was always worth it. You just weren't worth mine. Now, before I end this story, let me leave you with this. Never let anyone make you feel like an option in your own marriage. If you ever find yourself in the middle of betrayal and heartbreak, remember, you have the strength to walk away. You are worth more than lies. If you've been through something similar, drop your story in the comments. And if you found this story powerful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life cheating stories, broken marriage drama, and emotional relationship stories that reveal the hardest lessons about love, trust, and self-respect. And that is how I closed the door on my past, and opened a new one to a life where I finally knew my worth.